My name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. And I've titled this video, In Hell, I Spend All Day, dot, dot, dot. In part because I think it's a fun title. Sure, everybody has an opinion about that. Most people have some sense of what they'd hate to have to do all day. But more because I just spent like an hour in hell. That's right. In hell, I spent all day working with Jeffrey on college admissions essays while being actively worked against by his mom and college counselor. I have no opinions, only booze. You could have both, though, if you wanted to. You know, Four Locos to be precise. Well, I don't have any Four Locos, so I won't be able to tip cups in conjunction with you. But I do have bong rips. So why don't we pull a couple of those?
Oh, I'm glad you're live streaming.
Thanks, darling.
Can I give you a kiss?
Of course.
I love you.
I love you too, my darling. Your grammar is just fine at Mabodi. Where are you right now, Eric? I'm at Mabodi. Mabodi tree. I'm sitting at the base of it right now. You know, attaining enlightenment, shit like that. It's what I do. It's how I roll. I cannot tolerate college admissions essays at all. Like, Jeffrey comes in having written this horrible garbage essay at the mixed instructions of this horrible college guidance counselor woman he has, and his mother, who's got no good idea. Oh, I didn't say English wasn't your first language. I said your grammar's fine. I bet you speak a spattering of Spanglish. See? I'm telling you, at my Bodhi, you know how to say Puedo ir al baño? You know how to say ¿Qué hora es? ¿Qué hora es? Maybe for you, at my Bodhi, hell is you spend all day in Spanish class in high school. Learning nothing. Thinking about tortillas. I bet you at least know the word for library in Spanish. Everybody who's ever taken a Spanish class at least knows the word for library. It's la bibliothèque. Thank you. Thank you for praising my bong rip. So it's like the University of Chicago has this question. You know, what about the communities? I did Adderall for 16 years and abused it for 8. Oh, well, I've been on Adderall for probably about 14 years. I don't think I've ever not abused it. This is month number 1 where I'm attempting to not abuse it. Well, I've got all kinds of things to show for it. You know, various things I tweaked out on, like this, for example. This you can lay credit for this wonderful live stream right at the feet of Adderall. I bet if I were not on a little bit of Adderall right now, and granted it's a little because I took it early this morning, I took 30 milligrams, and I haven't taken any since. And I even have had a nap. Well, these chatters, they're so mesmerized by the undeniable, compelling drama of what I'm saying that their fingers are frozen solid. You've got this is in fact month number one of not abusing it. And I've got 2 days under my belt of taking it as prescribed, which is pretty good. I wasn't sure I was gonna make it through day number two. I was feeling really tired early. But instead of taking more Adderall, well, I'm an addict too. At my buddy, it's better to abuse Adderall than liquor, alcohol. I mean, I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I'm an addict, but I'm an alcoholic. I have an attic. Stimulants make you want to conquer the world. Four Loco, in addition to stimulants, make you want to make you do a poor job of conquering it. Booze makes you want to sing at midnight. An alcoholic who likes drugs. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Alcohol tended to make me want to watch TV. I don't know. The whole point of alcohol was kind of like, finally I'm slowed down. What SI sorcery is this supposed to be to keep repeating that you're an alcoholic addict after years into being sober even? Well, what I mean by the term alcoholic is that I can't successfully include alcohol in my intoxication regimen. Or more precisely, that alcohol makes me make poor decisions about consuming more alcohol. So, I mean something specific when I use the term. And as far as calling yourself an alcoholic indefinitely or forever, well, the reason is because it's it's a way that you're acknowledging that that's never going to change. There's never going to become a day when I can successfully drink alcohol. I prefer refuge recovery, Buddhist approach to addiction. Well, I don't really have an approach to addiction. I think that's where everybody seems to go wrong. Is they want to talk about addiction, but as a general thing. But you don't have nobody has a problem with drugs and alcohol. People have problems with specific drugs and alcohol or alcohol. Like some people have a problem with weed, insist that they can't function well when smoking weed. Probably they've never been ahead like me who smokes weed all the time. Because if you smoke weed all the time, it doesn't really get you very high. Um, but regardless, it's just not the case that if you attain some kind of head change, that you're compelled to have no restraint regarding head change in all areas. It's ridiculous. Refuge recovery attempts to mitigate suffering. Suffering is not necessarily the reason why you do drugs or alcohol, though. Like, I don't believe that suffering was ever a reason for me to do drugs and alcohol. It was a desire for excitement, stimulation, magic in my life. So, mitigating my suffering would not be a good strategy for recovery for me because in my experience, the times in my life when I was naturally sober, the only times that occurred really was when something horrible was going on. And I had no desire to drink or use anything because shit was miserable. Well, AA is less suitable to some cognitive types than others, but at least AA is a noble organization, you know? It's not top down. It's not, it's, oh, I see. Refuge observes suffering as a result from addiction and uses that as motivation to stop. Well, I mean, that works fine as long as you are suffering, right? From your addictions. Once you get some distance from them, then all of a sudden you're not suffering from them anymore. It might be helpful to try to keep in mind how much they make you suffer. Certainly, it's a necessary component of getting sober. I'm not sure if it's a sufficient component of getting sober. To some extent, suffering drives everybody into making changes if they do make changes in their behavior regarding, intoxicants. The thing is, the problem Alcoholics Anonymous has is really that people don't read the big book literally enough, you know? The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous makes very clear that Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on anything besides alcohol, and it does not consider getting high on drugs to be breaking your sobriety. I mean, is there theistic Buddhism? I didn't know there was theistic Buddhism. Well, yeah, people sometimes are, there is sex addiction, gambling addiction. An addict SFP type is toxic. Trust me, I started straight up. It depends what you're addicted to and how that addiction plays out, you know? I find that it seems likely anyway that well, I mean they shouldn't be though, right? Rovet, that's my point. Is that AA should not be NA. It's different. It expressly and explicitly states in its big book, which governs the whole thing, it doesn't have any opinion about anything besides alcohol. In fact, Bill Wilson, Bill W, he uh, he did psychedelics years into his sobriety. Oh, well, that seems weird. It seems contradictory to Buddha's central message, but That's fine. Where I grew up, you were on trial all the time. You had to defend 24/7. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, my childhood was a bit of a jungle too, surprisingly. It wasn't so much because I grew up in a bad area or anything like that. I grew up in kind of a fancy area. Did Rachel purposely delete your message here, Alan? Or is that another accident? I think she just accidentally deleted your message. Rachel, darling, sweetie, you're you're butt deleting stuff. Um, but instead had to do with when I was raised. You know, 70s, early mid 80s. They were very Lord of the Flies time as far as parenting went, and just society in general. It was before helmets, before people normally wore seatbelts. Like when I was growing up, I was never told to put my seatbelt on. We in my family we didn't start wearing seatbelts until they passed a seatbelt law, which my dad was very angry about. I don't know. I was out at a party and going back soon. I got a bit drunk. I don't know what I'm saying, but it seems like alcohol makes a person more honest. I don't know. Oh, so you were at a party? Oh. So did you find your engagement with others at the party disappointed you? I'm kind of getting that feeling. Anyone been for a Vipassana course? I don't know what that is. Eric, I just wanted to let you know I love you platonically and I hope you have a Merry Christmas. I love you platonically too, Atma Bodhi. You know what? I'm going to love you with agape instead. Okay, that's Catholic platonic love. Agape. Have you ever been loved with agape before? Well, alcohol kind of does bring out the true you, or at least the less filtered you, but it also makes that you worse and worse over time. So, it, you know, I it's like if I were to drink right now, like I'm sure if assuming I could sort of forget about the horror of the fact that I started drinking again, I'm sure I'd be delightful because I'm a pretty healthy, happy person at the moment. Um, but after a few months of drinking, I would turn just sour and miserable. Well, that explains why I was so sloppy, heroin. You know, penmanship counts. My alcohol tolerance never did build very much. Um, yeah, I would agree with you. Well, remember our conversation? I think you were here. Maybe you were about the expression "fuck it." People make poor decisions after they say "fuck it." Whatever it is that you are doing, if you're like, "Oh, fuck it," and then you just go do something after saying that, those are the decisions you regret. Rachel came up with a counterexample, of course, which was the time that she was trying to cut her hair and she kind of slipped and made like a bzzz, cut it like down to this height, you know. Um, and then she said at that point, since she had a hole in her hair, you know, she said, fuck it, and cut off the rest of it. Well, if you say fuck it like that, well, at this point, fuck it. It's, you know, now that I've cut a hole in my hair that's buzz cut down to the scalp, my only real choice, god damn it, Capillo. Cat puke. Oh, I've got to clean up cat puke. I think what I'll do as part of my cat puke cleaning process is to start by putting a little baking soda on it. Maybe that'll make it a little bit less gross or something. I don't know. It's all wet still. Oh, I don't even remember what I was saying. That just. Well, you're a lamb. I hope you ultimately choose to both avoid risk and, you know, avoid antisocial behaviors as well, ideally. Not critiquing or anything, not trying to bust your chops. I'm just saying, I wish the best for you and hope you don't take too many risks. Okay, time to clean up some puke. Are you ready for the puke cleanup of a lifetime? Good, that's a good start. I'll take this to the trash can in the garage with the cat poop in it, so it's mixed in with other gross trash. Okay. Now, get it with a little spray. This one could just go in the regular trash. Okay, that smells like bleach. Good. Bleach smells a lot better than cat puke. Cats seem to puke a fair amount, you know. I don't think most people puke as often as cats do. Why do you suppose that is? What do you think the evolutionary advantage from puking they enjoyed was that helped them evolve into puking creatures? Kitty pukes a lot. Probably it's because they can't spit. So therefore, they have to puke a lot. You're on 7 different antidepressants. Hopefully not all at the same time. They were so antidepressed that you got depressed again. You've long called Fridays Bucket Friday. Well, that's a good approach, maybe to sort of take occasionally at work. Like, if a given thing can wait till Monday, it shall wait till Monday. But you're better off not saying that after work, probably. But perhaps if you're like an overly cautious person who doesn't err on the side of risk, but errs on the side of being too cautious, then that expression "fuck it" probably isn't as reliable a cue of ill-conceived action as it is for me. Did you just say you don't think people puke as much as people do? Oh, I see. You're referring to I don't think people puke as much as cats do. Yeah, I can barely read it on this thing, but I can see it just fine from here on the TV. Yeah, well, if you're a control freak, Lou, then probably "fuck it" is a liberating expression for you. I don't need to be any more liberated. You know, I'm the guy who takes a bunch of boy bands, goes to Oakland, sees the day game, like a week before our wedding or 2 weeks before our wedding or something, returns back after a very long day filled with activities, and then decides to take a half ounce of mushrooms. So that kind of person needs to probably not say "fuck it," right? He's already prone towards saying that by default. Hero Lamb is more on my end of things, and that in his understanding, "fuck it" leads to the po. Usually, that's not a good thing, unless they're you know giving a presentation on traffic safety at the local school or something. That's fine, I suppose. I don't feel like you're dumping your bullshit at all. You're just telling us your story. You know, we all have struggles. What do I do every time I struggle with anything? Or anytime I'm not struggling with it? What did I do when I didn't like the work I was doing prior to this life stream? I immediately go online to start telling nobody and everybody about it. So this is my default way of dealing with things, is to tell other people about it and either just articulate why I'm struggling or articulate some of the struggles I've had. I tell my own stories over and over again. It's kind of an SI way of being, but an NI way of processing by a narrative. I tried to talk to these people, but they're judgmental, unreasonable. So there's no doing so. Toxic in that they judge you, but won't listen to any of your rebuttals. Again, though, it's illegal to kill others. So you just have to tolerate them. Hair lamb, you know, it sounds like you come from pretty, like the mean streets of kind of a background. But that's the wonderful thing about the internet. And the truth about humanity is that people are more defined by their type than anything else. And I'm not sure what type you are, but whatever type it is, you find apparently this kind of talking that goes on around here either soothing or interesting or something, even though the sort of talk around here is not normally associated with the mean streets of wherever, you know. But I'd like to think that the TWFE audience is fairly diverse. And mostly what I mean by that is in terms of age and gender. It is not a sausage party around here, which is nice. Probably because I'm not just talking about like how to get laid and construction machines and sports. It costs $100. Do I have any wisdom to share with 22-year-old before he leaves the chat? You know, try to preserve your agency as much as possible for later. Try to avoid big decisions as much as possible that limit your choices going forward. Avoid big mistakes. That's kind of the best you can hope for yourself in your early 20s, in my opinion. But that's projecting from my own experience, you know, caveats associated. But I think that that's pretty safe advice to give anybody in their early 20s is avoid big mistakes if you can. I mean, it's sound advice for people of any age, but even mistake-prone people like me learn by their 50s, I think, that to avoid risk more, you know. It doesn't mean we still don't do stupid shit periodically. Oh, Mr. Kitty, man. Why are you so strange? You're such a strange kitty. Anyway, listen, University of Chicago. What special things about the University of Chicago make you want to attend our school? What a horrible essay prompt. It's like you're basically telling all your applicants, go on to the University of Chicago. I wish you the best as well, at Bodie. The best of the buffet. All you're basically doing is telling everybody who wants to apply to the University of Chicago, go to our website, look at what we say about ourselves, and then cite a couple of examples and talk about how that really excites you and you're really passionate about that thing and bullshit like that. It's like, oh my God, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Who are we trying to fool here? You tried to watch Trouble Eat Twice. You wanted me to watch him? God, that cat. You can make it your problem. I'm going to be an adult and control myself even though I'm kind of angry. End of the day, there's nothing you can do about others. People will think what they want, say what they want. You can make it your problem, but just a dead end and stress for you. Yeah, I mean, sometimes shit occupies headspace. You wish it didn't, like you feel treated unjustly and you want to attain some kind of justice. But at the end of the day, a lot of times, you know, it's more hassle than it's worth, or you're just further empowering them by directing more attention to it. Depends on how significant the injustice is, I suppose. It's a self-aggrandized sales pitch. Tell us why you love me and can't wait to throw money at me. Yeah, it's horrible, right? What a horrible prompt for a college to make students answer. The true answer for every student is I have a list of schools that I think I can get into, possibly. At the top end are some schools that I'm unlikely to get into but hope to get into. And at the bottom end are schools that I'm sure to get into but would rather not settle for. You're on that list somewhere in University of Chicago. And for a variety of reasons, I've selected this school to apply to. Yeah, you've got good whatever in my desired major. That's probably one of the reasons, if you're like Jeffrey anyway. But I guess what they want to hear is, do you want to come here because you want to see what Chicago's like? It's like, fucking, what do high school kids know? Unless you're from Chicago, what do you know about why you want to go to the University of Chicago versus any of the other hundreds of universities you could go to? Probably the answer is because my mom made me apply here. So it's like I just hate the way these college admissions essay prompts encourage students to do two things: lie and or focus on like bullshit, such as my diversity background and medical problems make me an ideal candidate because I've overcome adversity. Look, I'm not saying overcoming adversity isn't meaningful. It is, but let's leave overcoming adversity for people who actually have real adversity, maybe, instead of just trying to manufacture it. Midwest chicks have bigger booties. that that would be the greatest fucking essay right there. Anybody turned in to the University of Chicago. Here I am. You get a wonder point. I should have told Jeffrey to just write that down. Just write. Why do you want to go to the University of Chicago? What about our special communities makes you want to go here? Midwest chicks can have bigger booties. Fantastic. Yeah, he just. What would be funny? Like, pick something incredibly obscure and inconsequential about the University of Chicago. I want to go to the University of Chicago because the northwest corner of the campus is at the intersection of Habershaken and Lankenshire streets. And in 1862, this famous historical event occurred there that I'm really into. And I'm just imagining myself like spending all of my day at that intersection when I'm not in class and stuff and just soaking in the amazingness of being there. I'm applying to your school because hearsay says you're competent. Honestly, you're mid. Mid. I mean, the truth is, I'm applying there because I'm the son of Chinese tiger mom who's insisted that one way or another I exist in a frame of achievement. It's not a bad thing necessarily, you know. I'm sure Jeffrey will have a successful life. Probably have a much more successful life than me. But FE polar brutality versus FE Dom taking a shot at you. FE Dom 100% of the time. They're kicking me right in my scorecard. I can normally whatever someone's honest but brutal assessment of my competency is, I'm normally my own harshest critic. If it's harsher than my own critique of me, I'm gonna figure they're wrong. I mean, I say I'm my own harshest critic, but I can think of totally insane, unfounded, harsh criticisms of me leveled by haters. I don't know if that really counts as critique, you know. Fe polar critique is just the unvarnished truth as they understand it. Um, Hopefully, I also understand the truth in an unvarnished fashion already. That's not the only horrible prompt. You know, I think the heavily experience focused ones are horribly SI biased. Like, share with us how your experience in one or more communities has shaped your worldview and meow meow meow. And what they want is like, or sometimes those are like share an experience. What they want is, when I was 14, I went to meow and meow 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 meow. And then it's like what the guidance counselors and the parents want you to do is, when I was 14 and attending advanced physics class at Princeton's Summer Institute, I learned a valuable lesson about meow meow meow. And I cannot constrain the projectile vomiting when I see words doing that stuff. It's the worst thing in history. It's the least authentic, most horrible bullshit I've ever encountered. And of course, Jeffrey's got 3 cooks in his kitchen. He's got in his kitchen, right? He's got this horrible college guidance counselor who keeps telling him to do bullshit like that, right? Like she thinks that's the pinnacle of college admissions essays. During the summer after my freshman year, I had the opportunity to attend an elite advanced physics course at Princeton's electroparticle lab for youth leadership. And I was like, oh, shut the fuck up. Please. Please just stop writing. Make my eyes stop reading these words. Make them stop reading them because it's damaging them so much. or the screaming loud, hard as nails coach who cries tears of joy secretly when you make the bigger league? Not bad, Hanson. Not bad. And it's only till after Hanson leaves that then the tears start coming down his face. He's a gruff old coach. I like that archetype, Boba Fett. That's a good archetype. So what I'm getting at is I need to entertain people reading my papers. Well, you don't need to necessarily entertain them. That would be nice. But don't try to interface them, right? Like, don't try to stop being a supplicant, right? The whole point of the college admissions process, from my perspective, is this: I am auditioning you as a possible place that's going to get my money and be the person I hired to provide me this sets of information that I want to acquire. So I'm applying now to see if you're on the list of schools I will make my selection from. Ultimately, I'm driving the bus here. I'm applying because selectivity goes two directions. Yes, you get to choose which students attend your university, but ideally, you shouldn't want the students who don't have sufficient sense of agency to understand that ultimately they are the client and the school is the service provider. So I'll note this in the essay. Your approach to evaluating applicants, specifically your essay prompts, suggest that you do a poor job of eliciting verbiage from people that demonstrates their actual competency to do intellectual work. Unless you're soliciting an answer just like this, in which case, touche. Well, if it helps the meat kid, if if the kid drops out because it's too aggressive, then he's just probably internalized the negative stuff and is helped not at all from it. But you know, I had moments as a coach that I'm not proud of yelling at my kids and stuff. I was a pretty like serious coach. Like I expected to win. And if you were wasting time fucking around or whatever, you were getting in the way of me winning. I told the kids this all the time. You guys, it's bullshit, but it was funny to say. You guys need to understand something. This is about me winning. For me to win, you have to win. I don't care if you win for you. I care if you win for me. Thus, if you're fucking around, you're getting in the way of me and winning. It wasn't really true. There were plenty of occasions when I was like, man, I really want this team or this kid to win. They've been working so hard. They're reasonably talented. They should be winning more than they are. They're getting some bad luck in rounds and shit. They deserve to win. I hope they do well this tournament. I've thought that sort of thing plenty of times. So, but I was kind of one of those. I had a certain. My FE with middle school age students is great, right? middle schoolers love me. And I understand how to FE them better than any other demographic group, probably better than adults, probably. But there's the other kind of coach, and in some sense, I was more like this kind of coach, Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil was a former coach of the Rams, and he coached, I don't know, other teams too. He was famous for, at every press conference, especially towards the end of his career, every press conference, he started off being like, so tell us about your team's win today, coach. You just be like, well, we just went out there, we fought, and I'm just so damn proud of these guys. Oh my God, I'm so proud of them. And tears come streaming down his face. I was more like the Dick Vermeil kind of coach in some way. But I was also like a chops busting coach. Oh, on balance, I'm okay with my way of doing things. Even though I would do things a little more gently now than I did then. But, we won. So, there's that. That counts for something. Unlike college admissions essays, which should count for nothing. They should count for nothing and they should be banned. Because even having a college admissions essay is just right away saying, if you've got rich parents, you've got a striking advantage, especially if you've got, involved parents, because they're going to hire people to help you. Now, that's true for like all of their high school career too. But there's no way to verify the student wrote that essay by themselves, that it really represents the student's ideation and so forth. I take solace in the fact that if I weren't involved, it would be less like Jeffrey than if I am involved. Why do good players generally make bad coaches? I mean, well, put it this way, good players generally don't make good coaches, but that's true of all demographics. Good players, bad players, yeah. Good coaches are. I'm a better coach than I am a debater. Or, I was a better competitive coach than I was a competitive debater. And I think it's because FE third, FI 7. I better uphold my own self-interest when it's part of a team. Sure, when you're a debate entry, like two people, like I was with my debate partner in high school, you're part of a larger team, but it doesn't really feel like a team sport because unless your school is one of those schools that's consistently in competition for like tournament awards, like best school in speech events, best school in debate events, then maybe it feels more like that. But our school wasn't like that. So anyway, college is horrible. I wish it didn't exist. It's such a scam, right? In almost no instances can you establish that college is the most efficient way to learn something. Yes, it provides a structured, paced presentation of materials. It provides a structure in terms of expected benchmarks to be met at certain times. So, in that regard, it it does some of that kind of work for you, you know. But at the end of the day, the problem with college is that it's tied in with this thing that you can't establish that you've mastered these curricula areas to anyone's satisfaction except by learning the material in this horribly inefficient way called college. And much of the material is extraneous. Like in math classes, you never learn anything that doesn't translate directly into new knowledge. But in humanities classes, most of the time, you're not learning anything at all, really, because you're not acquiring any articulable new knowledge. You're just practicing certain kinds of discourse that aren't even interactive in any meaningful way. There's no clash. So, what's the fucking point? You know, what I learned in college was like, I read these books. I could have read those books not in college. Did I learn something like how to write about literature? No. I mean, I already knew how to do that. I practiced it more. Was it a useful thing to practice? No. Was I practicing it because I loved practicing it so much and wanted to get better at it? No. The only reason I went to college was to get a bachelor's degree, which I did get a bachelor's degree, and it enabled me to get a job as a school teacher. Well, like, why was I going to college again? To become a school teacher? I didn't know why I was going to college. My parents made me go to college, basically. It's like, you either go to college or life's going to be shitty. Fine, I'll go to college. You know, it's like, you go to college and we'll empower you. If you don't go to college, then you're you're on your own, you motherfucker. Okay, I'll go to college. Like how my dad was. You know, I really didn't have any choice but to go to college. Or take care of myself all of a sudden, you know. It's like there are fields where the the linkage between material being taught and material being learned is much stronger. You know, your hard sciences generally is much stronger. But even then, it's still backwards, right? You should be attempting to math something and encounter a knowledge deficit you need to resolve. That should be the thing that catalyzes education, not something else. By making it utilitarian in a general sense, rather than as it should be, utilitarian in a subjective sense, what's useful to me to learn is a proper utilitarian frame for education. Not what what will be useful generally to have attained, like a bachelor's degree or a bachelor's in science, bachelor's in art, or PhD or a master's degree or something like that. That should not drive education at all. That's insane. That's completely insane. Like, why do you need a bachelor's degree to be a teacher? Well, it's just like this barrier of basic academic competency that people have to, that, it's like you have to have basic academic competency and minimal follow through, and probably be economically empowered. And then you can get a college degree, which informs your HR department a little bit about, like, maybe something, but I mean, nothing useful. And I certainly didn't learn how to teach in teaching credential school. I learned how to teach from a mentor teacher who had me copy exactly what he did in one class and then do it in a class later. Classroom teaching is very difficult. You know, um, I don't think it's a skill that we should celebrate at all, because I think the whole paradigm's fucked up, right? But it is definitely a skill. You gotta manage a group of kids who almost uniformly would rather be doing something else. And try to attempt some kind of outcomes that you can point to and say, well, I achieved this concrete thing. Have I ever eaten chorizo? Yes, of course. Chorizo is fairly common and popular in California. Okay. Well, I guess I've vented enough about college admissions essays. When I was 6, I had my first asthma attack. I panicked, though it was a bright blue summer day. The fun I was enjoying at the community pool would come crashing to an end. I couldn't breathe! Exclamation point. Later, at the hospital, the doctor advised my parents to not allow me to participate in sports any further. It could be dangerous. Fast forward 6 years. I finally did it. I stood on the podium as state champion in the 100 meters of swimming. Overcoming this adversity has taught me so much. Hi, Winston's mom. Yeah, it makes me, it just, the whole reality of it just makes me so angry. It's like, you feel like the kid who's saying the emperor has no clothes, except that most of the people are also saying the emperor has no clothes. They're just whispering it to each other. And can we all just stop pretending, But then, of course, you get these horrible people that are like teacherly women people, like, who really believe in all this bullshit. Like, in this class, in this room, we love to learn. We are lifelong learners. And we just earnestly believe in this horrible youth prison camp. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. I think I'm gonna watch some sports and try to make an early night of it. I've been pretty tired most of the day, and in fact, I took a nap earlier. A nap rudely ended by yet another phone call from Chawa. It was actually politely ended because she was calling me to tell me she wanted to push it back 30 minutes. But the phone first, first the house phone rings, then my cell phone rings. Anytime the house phone rings, I know it's Chawa. She's the only person who calls the house phone. And as soon as it's done ringing, I go, "Here comes the cell phone ring." And then sure enough, hot chick chack chack chick chack or whatever it says on the cell phone ring. Oh, so it was like yesterday. I had this big argument with her about. It wasn't an argument. She does not like to take no for an answer. She did not like the fact that I told her, no, I am not going to read whatever book Jeffrey selects for his optional book report. Okay. And she kept trying to convince me in various ways. Say, well, you choose the book. You choose the book from the list, whichever one you think is best. I don't want to choose a book from the list. I don't know any of these books. I don't want to. Miggity me up. I am going to wrap this up very soon, but I just want to finish this. And look, I don't want homework. I didn't want it in high school. I barely ever did my own homework. Like half time I cheated off of somebody else, and a quarter of the time I didn't do it. I don't, I don't need to have somebody else's homework to do. I'm not going to read this book. So she said, okay, fine, fine, fine. Today she calls me and she says, I just want to let you know I'm mailing you the book. I don't expect you to read it. I'm just mailing it to you. I said, all right, fine. Mail it to me. I'm not going to read it. She said, that's fine, that's fine. Like, Jesus Christ, woman. I don't know what book. I don't know what book he chose, but can you just let your son write an optional book report without getting your hands involved and making sure it's polished so as to maximize his chances of getting an A this second semester is really important because he hasn't already gained guaranteed admissions to some place, and if his grades go down they could retract in admissions potentially, so it's very important that we do this optional book report. All right, good for you, Boba Fett. I appreciate your resolve. You know, making a decision to change something that's not going well is the first step in changing it. Anyhow, it's time for, I don't know, a little sports, maybe a cartoon or something. And now you call Jeffrey's mom Tiger Mom. Specifically, that's a Chinese version of a helicopter parent. I mean, Jeffrey's mom's not wrong in her concerns and worries about Jeffrey, who, like any ENTP, has a tendency to overextend himself, start various projects that turn out to be bigger than he anticipates, have his interests split among areas and disciplines that to be master of, you kind of have to focus on more exclusively in a lot of instances, not in all. But But what is she going to do once her kids are both in college? It's like it seems like her whole life is built around making sure her kids get into the best possible college. What is she going to do once they actually get into that college? Or a college? No, well, she said she's gonna mail it to me. She told me this yesterday, or maybe it was even this morning. Um, but I haven't received it yet. SE tank running on fumes. It's running the SI stores too. Well, that's where you're really running on fumes. Probably Boba Fett is in the SI department. That's what's inhibiting your ability to SE somewhat. You don't sleep enough. Sleep is really important. I read a couple of articles about how significantly even relatively small losses of sleep impact our emotional stability and just our general emotional state. I feel it in myself pretty pretty clearly these days. I'm trying to get down with my fourth slot, and just like my frame of reference is one like I've got to do a better job of enjoying drugs. So I'm gonna have to make them last longer. Now, what that ends up meaning, and we'll see how this ends up playing out, right? Like today, I didn't feel very tweaked out at all. I felt mostly really tired after a burst of energy in the morning. Then I felt some more energy after my nap, but I'm going to be going to sleep relatively soon, I think. And, you know, try to get a good night's sleep. Um, Wake up in the morning more rested. I'm glad I got a nap today. And I'm glad I resisted the urge to take any additional Adderall, which just amplifies the problem by making it such that you get another poor night's sleep. What do I do with my hands when I sleep? Well, a lot of times I put this arm like this, and this hand, I don't know, like this. Sometimes I sleep like this. Um, but when I have my arms up for an extended period of time, I tend to go to sleep. All right. Goodbye, friends. Good night and good luck. I'll see you tomorrow.